The name suggested peace, but in reality, it was shrouded in the silent rule of power and fear. Here, money and the influence of powerful individuals dictated more than the law. And into this broken system, a new police superintendent SP, Jessica Carter, was appointed. Though in her 30s, her eyes held a deep serenity and her face bore the shadow of a firm resolve. She wasn't just an officer to sit behind files. She believed true justice was found by mixing with the people and listening to their silent cries. Because of her honest and rigorous character, her name was respected in the police department and she was a terror to criminals. Jessica started her work by scrutinizing the district map, crime patterns, and old cases. Everything seemed normal until a file from the village of Riverton landed on her desk. The file was quite thick and stained with dust as if it had been neglected for a long time. The complaint was the same. Over the last 6 months, there had been 20 complaints of harassment, molestation, and extortion against local youths. The complainants were all ordinary village women, and the accused were 4 local troublemakers: Mike, Rob, Billy, and Sunny. Next to every complaint in the file was the same note: investigation conducted, no concrete evidence found, case closed. Jessica's brows furrowed. 20 similar complaints in 6 months and not one piece of evidence? How could this be possible? She immediately called her PA and instructed him to send Inspector Thomas Riley to her office. Thomas Riley was a lazy, obese police officer. His uniform was crumpled and his face wore a strange look of complacency, as if he had just completed the most important task of his life. "Ma'am, hail victory," Thomas Riley said with a thick salute. Jessica pushed the file toward him. "What is this, Inspector?" Thomas Riley looked at the file, appearing slightly flustered, but quickly composed himself. "Ma'am, that's just the work of some village women. They quarrel among themselves and drag these innocent boys' names into it. No evidence, ma'am. We have investigated repeatedly." Clear annoyance was audible in Jessica's voice. 20 identical complaints. So is the entire village lying and only these 4 boys are truthful? Thomas Riley said lazily, "Ma'am, you don't understand village politics. It's just a ploy." Jessica realized there was no point in talking to this inspector. His conscience had been sold for money. She restrained herself and said, "All right, Inspector, you may go. I will handle this case myself." Thomas Riley smiled to himself. He thought this new SP would lose her enthusiasm in just a few days. After Thomas Riley left, Jessica leaned back in her chair. She decided she would not go to Riverton in her uniform. She knew criminals become alert and the truth is hidden when the police uniform is visible. She wanted to see the truth in its natural form directly from the victims. This decision was dangerous but necessary. She locked her service revolver in her locker. She gave her driver the day off. Today, SP Jessica Carter would walk the dusty roads of Riverton like an ordinary woman. The next morning, an old dilapidated bus stopped at the Riverton village bus stand. Along with the few passengers, an ordinary woman in a simple sari stepped off, cheap sandals on her feet and a strange determination on her face. This was Jessica Carter. As she walked through the village, the atmosphere seemed calm, yet a silent fear was hidden within it. The women were whispering among themselves, but their eyes were fixed on the road. Jessica asked an elderly woman, "Grandmother, where is the police station?" The old woman scrutinized her, then pointed to a dilapidated building, saying, "Over there." "But what will a girl do there? There is no justice there, only dates are found." The frustration of years was in her voice. Jessica slowly walked towards the police station. She saw about 10 to 15 women sitting silently under a tree outside the station. There were no slogans, no protest banners, just a silent sit-in demonstration. Jessica quietly sat down on the ground beside them. The women looked at her oddly, but no one asked anything. Hours passed. The heat intensified. Jessica's throat felt dry, but she remained seated. She could feel their silence, the pain accumulated in their eyes. Suddenly, an elderly woman sitting next to her, Martha Jones, began to weep. Seeing her cry, other women too began to weep. Jessica gathered her courage and put her hand on Martha's shoulder and said, "What happened, grandmother? Why are you crying?" Martha looked at Jessica with tear-filled eyes and said, "What can I tell you, my child? Now I am afraid to send my own granddaughter out of the house. Those four devils stand on the road making obscene gestures and singing vulgar songs. We go to the police. Inspector Thomas Riley says, bring proof. Will a respectable girl make a video of her own dishonor? And even if someone sees it, no one is willing to testify out of fear of those goons. Jessica's blood was boiling. She wanted to get up, grab Inspector Thomas Riley by the collar, and teach him a lesson. But she restrained herself. Now she was an ordinary woman, not the SP. Martha continued. They openly say that the police is in their pockets. Just then, Jessica saw something that confirmed Martha's words. Four youths arrived on bikes from the direction of the village. The same Mike and his gang. They stopped their bikes in front of the station and started laughing and making vulgar gestures at the protesting women. Their confidence was evident, as if they feared no one. Jessica thought, how can the police arrest them when they themselves have been sold out for money? Anger made her eyes red. She decided that justice would be served right here, right now, and she herself would deliver it. Just then, the police station door opened. Inspector Thomas Riley came out, followed by the four criminals, laughing as if they had not come to the station to hear complaints, but to have tea and snacks. Thomas Riley had his hand on Mike's shoulder as if he were an old friend. This was a shameless mockery of the law. Thomas Riley looked at the protesting women and shouted, "Get out of here! You have formed an illegal assembly. I'll throw everyone inside." He signaled to Constable William Davis, standing beside him. "William, move all of them. Use your baton if necessary." William Davis was a tall, strong youth whose eyes were filled with arrogance instead of compassion. He raised his baton and moved toward the crowd, shoving the women. Seeing this, Jessica's patience shattered. She stood up, calm, yet solid as a rock. She slowly walked through the crowd. She took the end of her sari from her shoulder and tucked it into her waist. Her eyes no longer held the helplessness of an ordinary woman, but the fire of an IPS officer. She stood directly in front of Constable William Davis. Her harsh, commanding voice echoed in the air. "Stop!" Everyone froze. Jessica looked directly into William's eyes and said, "You haven't come here to listen to justice. You only come here to beat people with a stick. Do you think every crowd is full of goons? Every woman a liar? Learn to be human before you wear this uniform." Though startled by Jessica's words, William was consumed by rage. An ordinary woman was teaching him his duty. It was an attack on his ego. He shouted angrily, "You will teach us the law. You're an agitator." In a fit of rage, he shoved Jessica hard, and before anyone could understand what was happening, he swung his baton with all his might, hitting Jessica squarely on her back near her shoulder. The sound of the baton was like a flash of lightning. The entire village was stunned. Martha Jones screamed in terror. Jessica felt intense pain. A blue mark appeared on her back. For a moment, her vision darkened, but she didn't fall. Very slowly, she turned around. She looked at Constable William Davis with eyes full of pain. There were no tears. There was pain, but there was something more. It was the flash of humiliation and rage erupting like a volcano. Constable William Davis, who was trembling with anger moments ago, now trembled with fear looking into Jessica's eyes. He felt as if he hadn't struck a woman, but death itself. Jessica said nothing. She simply raised her right hand and rolled up her sleeve of her sari. There were no bracelets on her wrist, but an ordinary police watch. Then she took out a small card from her pocket and held it toward William. Beneath the image of the state emblem, it read, "Jessica Carter, IPS, Superintendent of Police, SP, Oakwood County." As soon as William saw the card, the ground slipped from under his feet. His baton fell to the ground. His entire body began to sweat, as if he was standing before a blazing furnace. Ma'am?" His tongue trembled. Inspector Thomas Riley rushed over. He saw the card and was in a worse state than William. His stomach, which always protruded with pride, sank with fear today. Ma'am, what have you done?" he pleaded. Mike and his friends, who had been laughing all this time, turned pale. They realized this was their last day. They slowly started backing away. Jessica's voice was not soft. She roared like a lioness. "Arrest those four." The constables who had been holding batons now trembled upon hearing the SP's command and immediately arrested the four perpetrators.
Now Jessica turned to Constable William Davis. Constable, what is your name? Her voice was cold as ice. William Davis, ma'am, you didn't lay hands on a woman today. You laid hands on this uniform. You assaulted the trust of every person who comes to the police for help. There was no mercy in Jessica's voice. She ordered another constable to strip William of his uniform. Within minutes, the once arrogant constable was reduced to a pathetic figure, lying on the ground, stripped of his belt, cap, and shirt. Next was Inspector Thomas Riley's turn. Jessica turned to him and said, "You wanted proof, didn't you? This entire village is proof. The eyes of these women are proof, and this injury on my back is the biggest proof. The biggest proof is your conscience, which you sold a long time ago. You are hereby suspended. A departmental inquiry will be initiated against you, and I will personally ensure that people like you never deserve to wear this uniform again." Thomas Riley cried and pleaded, but Jessica did not look at him. She took out her phone and called the Assistant Superintendent of Police. "Smith, this is SP Jessica Carter. I am at the Riverton Police Station. Arrest Inspector Thomas Riley and Constable William Davis immediately. File charges against them for obstruction of government duty and assaulting a female officer." She added, "Also, there are 4 criminals here named Mike, Rob, Billy, and Sonny. File an FIR against them for molestation and threat. I am here. I need action within half an hour." The phone call ended. The whole area fell silent. The villagers who had been fearful until now watched in astonishment. Martha Jones slowly approached Jessica. Tears of joy were streaming from her eyes. With trembling hands, she tried to touch Jessica's injured shoulder. Jessica held her hand and smiled. "This pain is nothing, grandmother. The real pain was what you all have endured for so many months. Today, that pain ends. From now on, no girl in this village will live in fear. That is my promise." Within half an hour, a new police team arrived and took Thomas Riley and William Davis away in handcuffs. The 4 criminals were locked up. Jessica called all the village women to the station and recorded every detail of their complaints. As Jessica was preparing to get into her car, the whole village watched her with reverence. There was respect in the eyes of the women and a new light of hope in the eyes of the children. The car started moving. Jessica looked out of the window. Martha Jones and the other women stood with folded hands. Jessica rubbed her back. The pain was still there, but even in this pain today, there was a strange sense of relief. This pain was the suffering of an officer doing her duty. This pain proved that when a system begins to break down, someone has to stand up and have the courage to fix it, no matter what the cost.